Hello everyone, Sheek here with another, well, not exactly Transformers review, of Robotech Matchbox Sdf-1 Battle Fortress from the show Robotech, or if you're familiar with the anime, Macross, which this is also from. This is a giant spaceship, and it has wheels on the bottom underneath right here. Really big giant landing gear that a spaceship like this wouldn't really have in the show. When it first took off, there was like supports holding it up rather than, you know, struts or landing gear. So it's not the most accurate because it is a kid's toy from the 80s. Like, it is pretty old, but it does roll around. Rolls best forward. If you do it on the carpet and you roll it backwards, it might cause the back landing gear to collapse. But yeah, there's not too much for the spaceship configuration. Yes, I mean, this is a Transformers review channel, so more than likely there's going to be transformation involved. Anyway, this is probably my favorite, or at least close to my favorite spaceship of all time in fiction, and you'll see why later on. But one thing that this can do in this configuration is the aircraft carriers can detach, and then they have their own wheels so that they can roll around. Okay, so they can roll around. This is the Prometheus, and as you can see, it looks almost like a hand because of the three prongs. I mean, it's kind of obvious what this turns into, or at least what it should turn into anyway. On the other side, here we have the Daedalus, which is also an aircraft carrier. In the show, they did a space fold in the Earth's atmosphere. They were too close to the surface, so it took most of an island, or the whole island, some of the surrounding ocean, which happened to have these two aircraft carriers. They were never designed for space, but they retrofitted them and connected them to the Sdf-1. So yeah, that's pretty much it for the cruiser configuration. And then this is the main gun right here, which you can have into this position for it to fire. It only did this maybe a couple times in the show, but they weren't able to do this anymore after they did their first space fold, because it took some of the equipment itself disappeared when they did a space fold. It's a very interesting show, but it's to come up with a reason as to why they couldn't get back home quickly. Yeah, they got trapped out near the orbit of Pluto, and they had to get back by conventional means rather than doing another space fold. Yeah, so that's about it for the this configuration, but there are some storage, I guess, compartments. Like this might have been for where the missiles would originally go. Mine didn't come with the missiles. Should have looked a little more closely. I don't really care that much because, I mean, all you do is you'd have, I guess this might be, I don't even know how you'd launch them, but there's supposed to be missiles that you would put in here, or I guess here, because if you look up here on the legs, it looks like it lifts up, and then there's also some holes in there. But considering that they didn't shoot out like that in the show, so I don't really care all that much. Excuse me. Yeah, so that's about it for this configuration. To make things easier, I'm just going to lift it up like this, and let's just lift up the camera. Okay, so first thing you'd want to do is to, well, might want to turn this around like here, is flip up and close up the landing gear, like so. Just make sure everything clicks into place. And then rotate the main gun out, just like we did for the firing it in the well, the cruiser mode. And then you just want to rotate these back like so, back like so, and it kind of, there we are, clicks in the, or thunks into place. Then you want to rotate, well, first off, before I potentially break something, you just want to collapse those in together. Then finish rotating around, collapse down. Yeah, so we get those down like that. And then just want to rotate the shoulders around. Rotate the guns up like that. And then rotate this around like that. Rotate down. Rotate the guns around. And as you can see, it's pretty much in its, what configuration do they call this? Battle mode. I mean, the first mode is cruiser mode. This is considered battle mode. And the last thing to do is just to extend the legs. Like so. And here we have the Sdf-1, or Super Dimensional Fortress, in its pretty much robot mode. There's not really any other way to say it. Or, I mean, it's a giant robot. It's a giant spaceship robot. There's not much else to say about that. And then there is some odd articulation like that. Gets an interesting pose. I think because the main guns, they kind of looked like that sometimes in the show, like when it was landed and stuff. And it's, I don't know. It's interesting. An interesting point to articulate when most toys are meant for kids don't really care as much about having extra odd points of articulation. Now, granted, since this is a spaceship, it's not super articulate. Of course, arms do a full 360. The arms can go up that high. About 90-degree bend at the elbow. Of course, same the other way as well. On somewhat soft ratchets. And of course, they swivel. And then legs can only go back like one click. And they can go forward like one click. No bend at the knee, just molded in detail. And then there is some foot articulation right here. I guess to make the Sdf-1 lean back a little bit. And then I guess you could lean forward. I don't know what kind of pose you necessarily do that for, but it does have some articulation. But to be fair, if you think about this as like an action figure, like a robot, it's not the best. But if you think of it as a giant spaceship, which it is in the show, you wouldn't expect it to be super articulate, because it was just called modular transformation, where they're swapping one module for another one. Because like I said, one of them disappeared when they space jumped, so it was so that they could swap them so that they could use the main gun. And then for the third mode, which isn't really a mode, it's just you pretty much put the arms up and then you put the main gun down. And this is just, pretty much saying, hey, I guess it's more of a battle poise, because technically the main gun can also fire when it's like this. It's just more of, I guess, which direction it would be fired in more than anything else. Oh, there we are. Even though this was made in 1984, because if you look at the bottom of the foot, it will say, well, it even says Macross right here. It doesn't say Robotech, because this is the original anime this was made for. You'll see Bandai, 1984, made in Japan. So this is fairly old. Let's see, where was I going with this? Oh yeah, it's very sturdy feeling, even though it is pretty old. Like some of the G1 Transformers I've had and held in hand, they do feel, some of them feel kind of sturdy, but they also feel very delicate at the same time. I'm not really getting the same vibes from this. The only thing I would definitely advise caution with would be on the bridge, like right here with the antennae, and of course these giant shoulder guns. But other than that, I get a very sturdy feeling from this figure. And of course it does come with an instruction booklet on how to convert it. And I think it's funny, kind of cool that they call it operating manual rather than, just instructions. I mean, it's very simple. There's only like 6 steps to get it transformed. And then, of course, well, I guess 7 technically. And then there's a sticker sheet that came with it. The person that owned this previously, I don't know if it's the one before me or if it was someone like when they first got it back in the 80s or whatever, they applied the main stickers, I think, as far as what they thought would look good for the show, based on like stuff that you probably would have seen in the show, like these main stripes right here, the front of the data list, the runway strip. That's about it that they applied. So I'm deciding whether or not I should try applying them, whether or not they would actually stick, because this is really old. Like, this is the only thing that probably didn't age that well with this. And I guess last thing I'll show real quick is the box that came in. Like, it's very, like, these things are extremely rare, very hard to find, and let alone finding them in the box in good shape. As you can see, it is a pretty decent sized box, matchbox, ages 5 and up. And it says Robotech Collectors Series. I'm assuming that this is, because this is an original right here. But as you can see, it's just, and then there's the plastic window, and it comes in a styrofoam thing. It's just very squeaky, so I didn't really want to really show that on camera. It's just kind of annoying. On the side, here we have transforms into 3 exciting versions: cruiser, attack, and battle modes. And then here we have a battle scene of them in space, so you can see some of the Veritex. I don't really see any of the Zentradi, except it's probably because it's blowing up. And then battle mode, or attack mode. And then here's the 3 modes on the back. And one thing that I will never do, or probably won't do, and it would probably make any collector want to rip their hair out, but is this data card right here. I'd be crazy to cut that out. Pretty much it just tells the length, which is 1,200 meters, 18 million tons. I don't know how accurate that is. And then it talks about how many people live on it. Personnel 1,200, military 800, and then 70,000 civilian. Like I said, they transport an island with them, and there was a city around it, and people were in the bunkers. So I guess they were those were rated for space, I guess, because otherwise everyone would have died. Anyway, yeah, it's a fairly realistic show, I'd say, as far as like they don't. There's some characters that you really grow attached to that end up, well, dying because it's war, and they don't shy away from killing off characters. Anyway, on a much happier note, I am so glad I finally got this. This is something I've been wanting for years and years. Pretty much ever since I first saw this ship. Even before I saw it transform, I thought it was a cool ship, but then I was like freaking out when I saw it transform for the first time. That was one of the coolest moments in my childhood. Anyway, this has been a Sheek, well, I guess a Robotech review, but Sheek's DF reviews of the 1984 Robotech Matchbox Sdf-1 Battle Fortress. And if you like this review and you'd like to see more, please click that like and subscribe button to see more. Until next time, have a good one, everyone.